All right, today we are diving into a tool that has totally changed the game for pretty much everyone in AI and data science, Google Colab. You've probably heard about it, but what's all the hype really about? Let's break it down. I mean, just think about this for a second. What if you could get your hands on a seriously powerful computer? You know, the kind that can handle massive machine learning jobs, but you didn't have to pay a single penny for the hardware, and you didn't have to install a thing? Well, that's the incredible promise of Google Colab, and we're going to see exactly how they pull it off. So, first things first, what is this thing really? At its core, Colab is a coding environment that lives entirely in the cloud, and the two most important words there are zero setup. Seriously, you don't have to install anything to get going. Now, the whole thing is built on something that a lot of you probably already know and love, Jupyter Notebooks. But Google takes that whole concept and puts it on steroids by hosting everything for you. This means you can write and run Python, make cool charts and graphs, and write up your notes all in one spot from any computer that has a web browser. It's just no setup, no hassle. And you know, this really gets to the heart of what Google's trying to do here. Their mission is to just tear down the barriers to entry. You don't need a crazy expensive, souped-up computer anymore just to get your feet wet with machine learning. By making these tools available to literally anyone with a Google account, they're leveling the playing field for students, researchers, and hobbyists all over the world. Okay, let's get to the best part. The part everyone loves about Colab. The absolutely insane amount of computing power you get. For free. Think of this as your own personal launchpad into the world of AI. I mean, just look at this. You get a Python environment totally configured, ready to go out of the box. But the real showstopper? Free access to GPUs and TPUs. We're talking powerful NVIDIA GPUs and even Google's own custom-made tensor processing units, which are beasts for training big models. And as if that's not enough, you get real-time collaboration, just like in Google Docs. It's an incredible package. Which, of course, brings us to the big, flashing, obvious question. All of this power for free? It definitely sounds a little too good to be true. So, what's the catch? And yep, you guessed it, there is a catch. To really get it, we need to talk about the limits of the free tier. And that brings us to a little something the community calls the hardware lottery. This quote right here just nails it. When you're using the free version, you are not guaranteed any specific piece of hardware. One session, you might hit the jackpot and get a top-of-the-line GPU and your code just flies. The very next day, you make it a much older, slower one. That complete unpredictability, well, that's the hardware lottery. And it's not just the hardware lottery. The free tier has some other very real limits. Your sessions will time out, usually after about 12 hours, sometimes way sooner if you're idle. And here's the big one. The storage is ephemeral. That means any files you upload or create, they're gone. Poof. Deleted forever when your session ends, unless you remember to save them to Google Drive. Plus, you're at the back of the line for the good stuff when everyone's trying to use it. So how does Google solve this mess for people who need something more reliable? Well, they sell predictability. To understand how, we need to peek inside their paid plans and what they call the compute unit economy. Okay, so what's a compute unit? Think of it like a token at an arcade. It's basically Colab's internal currency. When you pay for a subscription, you get a bucket of these units. And every time you fire up a notebook, especially with a beefy GPU, you start burning through those units. And this chart shows you exactly how fast they burn. A pretty standard GPU, like a T4, might only cost you around 2 units an hour. But if you want the big guns, like a high-end A100 GPU, you're going to be burning through about 15 units every single hour. The more power you use, the faster your tokens disappear. So let's put that into perspective, right? The basic $10 Pro plan gets you 100 compute units. If you're running that top-tier A100 GPU, your 100 units are going to last you just under 7 hours. That's it. So what this does is it completely changes the game from a simple, flat subscription to a metered pay-for-what-you-use system. It's actually a pretty smart way for Google to make sure that the cost lines up with how much power you're actually pulling from their servers. Now, of course, Colab doesn't exist in a bubble. To really get a feel for where it shines and where it doesn't, we've got to see how it stacks up against the competition. So first up is the classic showdown, Colab versus just running a Jupyter Notebook on your own computer. And this one is really the ultimate trade-off between convenience and control. Colab is convenience king. Zero setup, free GPUs, it just works. But you give up control. A local setup, you have total control over everything. Your hardware, your software, your data privacy. But you're the one who has to buy it, set it up, and fix it when it breaks. Okay, what about its biggest rival, Amazon's SageMaker Studio Lab? This one is really a battle of the tech giants. Colab is plugged right into the Google ecosystem, Drive, GitHub, and it gives you that unique access to TPUs. SageMaker's killer feature, though, is that it gives you 15 gigabytes of persistent storage for free. And that is a huge deal if your projects last more than a few hours. So let's just pull back and look at the whole landscape. This really makes it clear. Google Colab? It's the undisputed champion for prototyping and for education. It's just so easy to start. If you need absolute control and security, nothing beats a local setup. Doing a machine learning competition? You're going to want to be on Kaggle, right next to the data. And for longer-term projects where you need that storage, AWS SageMaker is a super strong contender. So, after all of that, we land here at the final verdict. Is Google Colab actually the right tool for you and what you're trying to build? Well, it really truly depends on who you are. For students and hobbyists, it's 1,000% yes. The free tier is just an unbeatable tool for learning and tinkering. For professionals and researchers, yes. But, and this is a big but, it's for prototyping. For any serious deadline-driven work, you have to plan on upgrading to a paid plan or just moving to your own dedicated machine. And for big corporate teams, the standard versions are a no-go. You need to be looking at Colab Enterprise, which is built for security. And that really brings us to the core question that a tool like Colab forces every single one of us to answer. It all boils down to this one simple trade-off. For your next project, what do you value more? The incredible ease of convenience or the raw power and security of total control? The answer to that question will tell you exactly where Colab fits in your own toolkit.